these dragons really represent lightning bolts, the Thunderbolt series, and Wally Thornhill and David Talbot on the internet sort of present a theory that's suggestive of the Buddhist legend of the hearers, and the fact that Australian Aborigines use Priya and Juanita Indian language words, and my son Nico is initiated into honey ant dreaming dot painting by Vera, Steve, Brian's wife, Kulpijara speaking people, father of Denzel, Brian, and this honey ant dreaming I think is a dreamtime form of seers, previous Buddha dissemination of the Vajrayana, hinted at by David Talbot due to the presence of perhaps Saturn, jumping into a different orbit somehow, and the Bali Hindu Buddhist tradition is very ancient, I think, and is a unique treasure in the world, a functioning rice or Swat community, non-toxic, promoting non-toxic culture, and in my opinion these cultures, these traditional cultures, whether Hindu or of Islamic origin, like the Uyghurs who help the Tibetans who are ahimsa by providing the food coming from the nomadic yak culture, and since I sort of have found that the Dalai Lama system now seems to have quite a significant presence of Israelis, probably a very nice person, and probably perfectly genuine translator at Chenrezig Institute, is however a ex-Israeli military serviceman, military service being compulsory I think there, and a linguist, and I can't help but being suspicious that ex-military service linguist isn't a government agent in some way of Israel, although it's probably paranoia. But the behaviour of the translator school and the central office FPMT Claire, not that I know her, is suspicious. She's either stupid or a plant of some sort, and I found that there was an anti-Darwinist sentiment quite palpable at Chenrezig, and a schism caused by Sandy in about 2007 that sort of shook my faith a bit, and the sort of fundamentalist anti-Darwinist, took the sort of 1990s corporate fascism that Kennedy engaged in seemed to sort of permeate the Chenrezig environment 15 years later, and you had people saying, we want to make the place more professional. And so I'm wanting now to investigate the older Bali Hindu system, and also I have an interest in Eastern and Western history of philosophy, and I feel that Charles Darwin was not a fully perfected Buddha, but definitely a bodhisattva, and definitely provided amazing support for Nagarjuna's Nalanda School, dependent originations of human nature. Darwin taught evolution, human origins by random variation of DNA, perhaps an environment, and also he taught, you know, that the natural attrition of the group, the members of the group who are not well suited to the chaotically changing environment, are the causes of diversity of species. And you know, the Middle Eastern, in my opinion, Helot, Spartan, Alexandrian, Aristotelian slave cultures that, you know, assert Adam and Eve's children and their incest is the origin of the human species, is incredibly perverse and disgusting, and promotes incest among other things. And you know, the Australian government has not you know, gone at it, not supported Indonesia, a fellow democracy in the region. It's actively supporting you know, creationist Christians migrating to Australia, and the unfortunate thing is they vote. I mean, I've got nothing against them personally, but this does seem to be a bit of a plan to you know, keep the prohibitionists East India Company now operating from America when they used to operate from England, you know, down, poor, abused, and you know, corporate fascists finance themselves and you know, lay out Canberra, you know, with sort of occult imagery, and Melbourne, and celebrate the sacrifice of innocents in the First, Second World War, the Boer War, and you know, Rhodesian scholars like Rhodes scholars like Hawke, Abbott seem to be apartheid elitist Zion protocollists. It's interesting to note that you know, there is a strong support for Borobudur Buddhism in Bali Hindu practice, and also interesting understanding of the origins of Serlingpa's Chittamatra school coming, a KUTA temple similar to the Melbourne Buddha Vihara, habited by Ajahn Chamras Viryananda. Similar tradition is evident in the KUTA Mahayana Buddhist temple, which really seems to you know, be a very valid and very old Sukhothai Chinese sort of Thai tradition that sort of is essentially focusing on you know, compassion and happiness, Sukhothai. And in the KUTA temple, the Sukhothai is suggesting this quite consciously. Instead of having a Borobudur Buddha in front of a picture of Borobudur, they have intentionally placed a Sukhothai, alluding to the origins of the Serlingpa tradition that Atisha studied for 12 years in Sumatra and took to India, and then a Tibetan king sacrificed his life for, requesting that, having been kidnapped with gold offerings to Atisha, he said, don't pay the ransom, just send the money to Atisha and get him to come to Tibet. And that's the origin of really the Dalai Lama system in the 11th century. And I find in Bali a lot of very interesting themes in these temples.